are hitting the nail in the head. What is needed for Africa to be liberated today is for us to remove the shackles of the mind.
Okay.
We are a sick and wounded people, and we need healing. And I often say we are not in the doctor's office with our illness of the mind. We are not even in the general ward in the hospital. We are in the intensive care. We need healing. We must accept that as black people, we are sick and we need healing. And that healing is in the mind.
Head, yes.
And until that healing takes place, nothing is going to change.
Okay.
The most dangerous thing for Africa today is a colonized African.
Okay.
And we need to seek the healing that we deserve in order for Africa to move forward. Okay. It's okay to fight as a family, internally. But when the outsider comes in, we forget our differences and we deal with the enemy. Until Africa gets to that point when we stand up proud and tall as Africans and understanding that our sheer survival begins with our unity, nothing is going to change. The exploitation will continue. So I say to my fellow Africans, we need healing. Let's decolonize ourselves. Let's eliminate the legacy of slavery. And this is true of not only Africans on the continent, but Africans around the globe. Therefore, you'll find that the majority of us don't even realize that we are sick. So the conversations need to take place that get to people to say, you know what? Maybe I have a problem. Because if you don't realize you're sick, how do you go to the doctor?
You're right. You're right.
And that's where most of us are. We don't even realize that we're sick. A simple case of a Chinaman putting up a shop next door to a black man's shop in a black neighborhood. Give it 2 months, the black man is going to go out of business.
That's right.
Because us black people will patronize the Chinaman or the white guy. Why is that? How stupid can we be? But we do it without thinking. Bring that out. Force people to have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. Who are you? Why are you doing what you're doing? Do you care at all about your children, your grandchildren, and generations to come? When you patronize a non-black person in your black neighborhood, you are dripping. You are robbing money out of your own neighborhood. The black money stays in the black neighborhood. It doesn't even make it half the block. Chinese money stays in the Chinese community 14 times.
It's envy. How do we get over the envy?
It's beyond envy. It's stupidity.
Okay. So now, my next thing is this. So we are a people who definitely need to change. I saw a video. You know, the Chinese, they're not exactly known for their religious beliefs. Matter of fact, I think I heard that churches are not, come on, don't quote me on it, but I don't think we have a lot of churches in China. I saw a video recently in Ghana where a Chinese man now has a church and he's praying to people, he's putting his hand on them. And oh, by the way, he takes his cash right there before he puts his hand on you. And we're lined up.
Well, I'll tell you another good one. I think you heard the story about this white guy in Kenya who called himself Jesus.
Oh, really?
And there was and of course I loved the headline. It says, Kenya expels Jesus.
Oh, they expelled him?
There were two Kenyan guys who were now going around with him. Saying he was Jesus Christ and making people pay. So, of course, the Kenyan government heard about it and they expelled Jesus Christ. So, yes, he's a Chinaman who saw an opportunity to make money. A lot of our own people are doing it, taking money from the people in the name of religion. So, unfortunately, those are just human frailties. Human beings will take advantage. He needs to be stopped the same way many other pastors that look like you and I who are taking advantage of the people. We must go after all of them and shut them down.
You're not worried about security?
I'm speaking my truth.
But security, it has to have crossed your mind, because these people don't play.
Hasn't even occurred to me. I'm just a mother, a grandmother who's speaking the truth because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
So, looking forward to Africa, what do you think? Are we going to ever get it?
Yes, we are going to get it. We don't have a choice. This is do or die, which is why I am going to continue to speak. I'm going to run around this country like a chicken without a head until every black person who needs to hear the message, who needs to hear the truth about what is really going on in our Africa, has heard. Okay. Quite often, the reason we do not respect our Africa, the reason we as black people, we are our own worst enemy, because we are the ones who dog the continent. And I realized, my own assessment as a doctor, is that we don't know our Africa. We know our Africa based on what they want us to know our Africa. Okay. We need to truly understand what is going on on the continent. And this is one of the reasons why I am continuing to speak, because when we understand what is really going on in Africa, when we can see what the problems are and address them from the root, not from a superficial level, that is when true healing is going to take place. Okay.
The final thing that I want to talk to you about is the diaspora, the African diaspora. It is a huge resource.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you some numbers. Ghana, 2018, the World Bank says that remittances from Ghanaians abroad was 3.3 billion. Now, our own internal diaspora network television survey tells us that of all the Ghanaians who send money home, 29.9% does not send it by formal means.
Absolutely.
They send it by informal means.
Absolutely.
If you do the simple math, you're looking at about $4.7 billion in 2018.
Absolutely.
Cocoa brings in 2.4 billion. Gold, we used to call ourselves Gold Coast, brings in 2.2. So when you put gold and cocoa together, it's 4.6 billion. So when you put cocoa and gold together, it's still less than what the diaspora brings in.
Absolutely.
Nobody takes us seriously.
Again,
what would it take?
It goes back to the same stupidity. I mean, the low-hanging fruits, the dumb things that we do as black people are mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Even cocoa. Cocoa should be bringing a heck of a lot more than that.
Yeah.
65% of the world cocoa comes from West Africa, and yet we do not dictate the price of cocoa. Why aren't we manufacturing our own hot chocolate and chocolate bars? It's only now that Ghana is beginning to have value addition to the cocoa.
$400 with Cote d'Ivoire.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
And that's still pittance compared to what we should be doing. Yeah. There is a whole city built in Pennsylvania, Hershey, based on the cocoa from West Africa. There is a whole city built in Cadbury.
Is there a cocoa plant in
Hershey? None. Same thing in Cadbury.
Okay.
How dumb do we have to be? How long has this been going on before we say enough is enough? They were too busy making Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana compete on the prices of cocoa. All the presidents had to do is cross the border, go talk to each other as brothers.
Which the good news is they have done finally.
Finally. Yes. How long did it take?
Exactly.
It goes back to the stupidity that I talk about.
Yeah.
That we all must wake up and say enough is enough.
Yeah.
This stupidity has got to stop.
Okay.
That we, the richest continent on earth, we have got to have value addition to our natural resources before they leave the continent. That we, the richest continent on earth, must and will begin to dictate the prices of all our natural resources if anybody needs them from the continent. That can only happen when we speak with one voice, as one Africa, one continent, speaking with one voice. That is why people must realize the African Continental Free Trade Area is a monumental decision that all of us must join the African heads of states in supporting it. Its implementation come July of next year must be a resounding success, and we, the diaspora, are in a perfect position to pull our funds together, and once and for all, we must reclaim that which was denied to us when we got our independence, that is economic liberation. Disappointed us.
Okay.
You have let us down.
Okay.
And it's time that you stand up and defend us.
Very good. AU, let's talk about AU. A whole lot of them are men.
Yes.
So basically, they're just towing the line.
Absolutely.
What should we do about that?
Well, we have to understand also that to some extent, I do cut you a little bit of slack as black men. The fear is real. When you look at what the colonizers have done, particularly France, when leaders have tried to pull out of the pact for the continuation of colonization, the leaders found their heads on the chopping block. There were coups in those countries, and those leaders were assassinated.
Yeah.
So the fear is real.
Okay.
The small economies that we have today as African countries, these are economies that clearly cannot survive on their own.
Okay.
They are economies that are easy to destabilize.
Okay.
So in our analysis of what needs to happen, we go back to what our Pan-African fathers wanted to accomplish in 1963, when they came up with the compromise of the Organization of African Unity. Had the Casablanca Group won, when Kwame Nkrumah and the other 6 countries, Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, they said, Africa for the Africans, African Union now. Had we succeeded at doing that back in 1963, Africa would be in a very different place.
Yes.
Berlin Conference left us in a very bad losing lane. It was a strategy designed to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. That strategy remains in place today. When Togo tries to push back, it's an easy economy that can be destabilized at the push of a button. When Equatorial Guinea, when Central African Republic, this was intentional. Where I fault us as black people is why it has taken us this long to come together for the sheer survival of 1.27 billion people. There is a responsibility in each and every one of us to realize and understand that we have vacated Africa's place on the world stage. And we've vacated it by simply failing to believe not only in ourselves, but in each other. We are the only race that does not come together when it comes to defending our turf. That singularly has been our failure. That singularly is where you black men must begin. It starts with the conversation, with the image in the mirror. Black men, stop being colonized. Stop behaving like a colonized individual. We need to speak and defend our Africa.
You mentioned